The term serial killer didn't exist until around the 1970s. So, back in the 1930s and 1940s, they were called chain murders because they were linked together like a chain. So, the 3X chain murder, this is a series that happened back in 1930 to 1931. The first victim was Joseph Moisinski, who was murdered on June 13th of 1930 in Whitestone, Queens. The bullet-ridden body of Joseph John Moisinski was found by passing motorists on June 13th of 1930. Police also found a woman's blood-stained coat in the passenger side of his car. They were able to track down and question Catherine May, who was a 19-year-old woman who was with Moisinski the night that he was killed. For 2 years, she and Moisinski had been having an affair. He was the father of two. She told the police that she and Moisinski were on a love tryst that night. She also told police the gunman did not say a word before shooting Moisinski and rifling through his pockets. The killer then forced May at gunpoint to get on a streetcar and leave the area. Before she left, he gave her a note with Moisinski's name on it in red ink and a circled red 3X. Police say they did not believe May. The very next day, on June 14th, she told the police that she did not recognize the killer. But then, under intense interrogation, she gave the police the name of Stephen Lombardo. The 19-year-old then told the story again and said that the murderer was a man that she had met a number of times, but she did not know his name. She later told press, quote, "I was tired of being questioned, so I made up the Lombardo story. I never knew anybody by that name," end quote. It eventually came out that a man in a black suit, bow tie, and black fedora had demanded Moisinski's license before shooting him. Police received a tip that Joseph Moisset, who lived in the same area as the incident, was the killer. He was arrested by police while on a California-bound train. He was going to attend his mother's funeral. Moisset was released by police. Police had also theorized Joseph Moisinski was murdered as part of a bootlegger war. The killer of Moisinski sent a letter to a New York newspaper on June 17th. He boasted about the murder and claimed that he would kill again. He signed the letter with an inverted and underlined V and the symbol 3X. 12 hours later, on June 17, 1930, Noel Sowley was shot dead behind the wheel of his Plymouth Roadster. Sowley had been on a date with Betty Ring, the daughter of a police officer. She witnessed the murder and later gave police a graphic description. Ring described a deaconish-looking man who took Sowley's license and shot him in the head. The killer then gave her a piece of paper. On it was Sowley's name in red ink and a circled 3X. He led Ring to a bus so he could go home. Her husband would later use this affair to successfully petition for a divorce. Sowley had been shot in the head and discovered the next morning by a farmhand. The radio salesman was just 25 years old. The killer had clipped a newspaper article about Moisinski's slaying and laid it on the victim's lap. In his letter to the newspaper, 3X said there were 14 more people to die. On October 17th of that same year, 1930, newspapers reported that the 3X killer, as he had called himself, had sent a letter to the police. In it, he said, "I'm back. I will pay every cop a visit." More than 200 detectives were brought in to manhunt for the killer. Over the next number of months, police and newspapers would receive more letters threatening murders. Almost 1,000 extra police officers were detailed to Queens. At one point, an officer was cleaning his gun in the locker room of the Queens station house. The next day, he received a letter signed by 3X stating, quote, "I saw you cleaning your gun last night. I hope you didn't expect to shoot me. You'll never find me." End quote. For the next year, hundreds of letters would be received, but almost every single one was determined to be a hoax. The last letter received was in October of 1931. It was officially ascribed to 3X and was received October 22nd of 1931. In it, the killer threatened to kill 3 men at once. He said he might use poison darts or a blowgun or some mysterious, quote, very old Hindu trick, end quote. After this note, he was never heard from again, and to this day, nobody knows who he really was. A serial killer, also called a serial murderer, is typically a person who murders 3 or more persons, with the murders taking place over more than a month and including a significant period of time in between. Many remain unknown to the world.